Joining me is the panel, Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Michael Kroger, the government's called a summit. Well, you know, if you're going to call a talk shop, you may as well use it to get unions and bosses to agree to something that the government thinks will kickstart this economy. What big idea do you think it's trying to fight for?
Well, he must be supporting the great idea of Australia's natural resources. We've just seen how wonderful it is. We've got gold and diamonds and iron ore and coal and oil and gas. So that must be one of his great
funnily enough.
Forward. Oh, it was only diamonds, was it? Oh, anyway. No, Andrew, look, this bloke's no Bob Hawke, is he? He's coming along. This is going to end up more like the Kevin Rudd talk fest than the Bob Hawke one when Hawke was Prime Minister. There's three things he should concentrate on. What are we going to do about increasing productivity in this country? What are we going to do about taking the burden of regulation off business and particularly small business? How are we going to cut mining approvals from 12 years in the case of Adani? How are we going to cut the whole, phalanx of rules and regulations in this country that we've talked about for 30 or 40 years? Ever since I've been a kid, people have been talking about deregulation. We've got more regulation than ever. And thirdly, he should concentrate on how they can support the High Court's decision that if people have a freedom to contract with their employer, then that contract is inviolable and overrides any suggestion of awards or the old laws in relation to the control test. So concentrating on those three things will do much for the Australian labour market. At present, as you say, he appears to have no ideas at all, Andrew.
Steve Conroy, obviously I'm negative. Obviously you're here to defend her. But tell me, the summit is a fantastic excuse to get people together from opposing camps, rallied round an idea that you have to fix the economy. What big idea is Anthony Albanese trying to fight for at this summit?
Well, I think there's two or three things that are already emerging, and I'm far more positive than Michael or yourself about what can be achieved at this. I think it's important to keep expectations low because the challenges are different to what they were in the sort of Hawke summit, and you have that debacle of the Kevin Rudd summit, which really achieved little. I know Albo said the NDIS came from. The NDIS was an idea that was already happening. It was great to see that it was endorsed and embraced by that Rudd summit, but the rest of that summit was a complete waste of time. But to this summit, so what's already known on the table, and there are lots of discussions already happening behind the scenes. That's the important thing to remember about this, Andrew. Behind the scenes, there is a lot of work going on already between the business community.
Oh, look, I'm sure they're working, they're printing stuff, they're getting invitations, they've got the flower arrangers in, they're measuring the curtains, they're getting the chairs. I got that, but you said three ideas. Three ideas, name one of them.
Yeah, skills. We needed.
Yeah, I know we need skills. Tell me the idea to fix what we need.
Well, they're talking about trying to fast track. One of the discussions is to try and fast track an increase, and I think the number of 40,000 has been put on the table by Brendan O'Connor to get skilled workforce into the country. We all know we desperately need it. So there's one big change that I think will come through.
We've had a skilled immigration program for years and years. They're not coming. What's the idea? Immigration is the laziest way to fix a skill shortage. The laziest way. Australia's been doing it for years, chocking up our cities. Give me the big idea that they're trying to fight for, that they need to knock heads together to get.
I would expect you'll see an increase in the amount of traineeships that will come through the business community as part of the discussion around bringing skilled workers in. I don't think you can do one without doing the other. So I think you'll see a commitment to greater traineeships from the business side to complement bringing that in. So I think that's a big idea, Andrew. You might want to poo-poo it, but I think that's a big idea. A critical idea that's on the table for discussions.
It's not a big idea.
Fixing the broken enterprise bargaining system in this country. It is hopeless. We've seen Treasury finally tell
you
the
what,
truth.
on that bargaining enterprise, you'll get about zero agreement with the ACTU. Zero. You'll get zero. Not when you've got Senator McManus leading it and issuing the other day an almost communistic manifesto of what they wanted. Look, Michael Kroger,
Well,
have you
I
come
think
up
you'll
with
see
any
a far more
single
positive
big
outcome
idea
here
that will change this country?
Well, I've come up with 2 so far. I'd get to the third, but
Are they not big ideas?
Well,
more trainee places? I mean, seriously, Steve?
More trainee places. That's a small idea.
9 years, the Liberals did nothing.
Stephen, that's a small
9
idea
years.
promised by every
9 years,
and every single
9 years, and
Here's
you
a big
delivered
idea, Andrew.
nothing.
Here's a big idea. Let's have a rolling 3-year Royal Commission, including the states, that looks at every rule and regulation governing employment in this country, that looks at all of the regulation on business.
It was called the red tape.
Hang on, whether it's taxes, whether it's compliance, whether it's
the Liberals had this program.
Business name registrations. No one has ever done this seriously. We need to slash and burn.
The Liberals had a program called the Red Tape Reduction Program.
Look, you had a go. You got no ideas.
Red Tape Reduction Program. 9 years of it.
You've got no ideas whatsoever. A 3-year.
I got a message from a viewer called Buckley's. He says no hope.
To do something.
No hope of that. It's look.
Well,
I tell you what. In the absence
Andrew,
of anything,
someone registers a new business,
he'd be a Carlton
you've got
fan.
Dozens of
He would be a Carlton fan.
Dozens of registrations that you have to undertake. Work cover, superannuation, tax, business name registration. It goes on and on and on.
What did you do for 9 years?
Massive burden.
No one would listen to you for 9 years on this in your own government. Like, you had 9 years to this.
Look, Michael is right. Maybe the Liberals should see the light.
Every year.
Absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The Liberals didn't do a thing about industrial relations reform since Tony Abbott tried. You're absolutely correct, but that doesn't mean that Michael's idea isn't urgent today. Now, meanwhile, there is a push in this vacuum, at least in the media, for one change, and that's to scrap the last lot of tax cuts that were promised 4 years ago. The poor and the middle income earners, they've had their share of tax cuts already or income support. But now the ACTU, the Greens and others say, well, the last lot of cuts for richer Australians should be scrapped, particularly now that more men than women will get it. Apparently, I guess if more women than men got it, that'd be fine. Do you buy that argument, Michael Kroger?
No, I don't. As you say, this is a rolling series of changes. They're getting rid of the 37% tax bracket. They're increasing the thresholds. And that's the way it should happen. And any time a government hands back money to people, it's very beneficial. And let's accept the fact that, bracket creep means that a lot of these tax cuts in any case have been eaten up by bracket creep. So the net gain to taxpayers over the years is not all that large. But these were legislated, and they should certainly go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I think so too. And yeah, absolutely. Steve Conroy and Michael Kroger, thank you for a feisty debate. Steve, I guess you'll be happy when the summit is over and you don't have to talk about yet another talk fest. But thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it, both of you, gentlemen.